There we go.
Yes, okay.
You guys, the vibe, maybe.
All
All right.
Yeah, I hear.
Frank Brzezowski,
Here.
Brian Chapman,
Here.
Diana Chapman,
Here.
Matt Chapman,
Here.
Jessica Conklin,
Here.
Steve Kopp Jr., Donnie Duvall,
Here.
Brian Gardner, Mel Horton,
Here.
Pauline Hobart,
Here.
Alan Ingalls,
Here.
Henry Jerzak, Dr. Kellogg,
Here.
Bill Kennedy,
Here.
Rick Kimball,
Here.
Jim Kintz, Al Lewis, Tim Marshall,
Present and accounted for.
Devin McGinnis, Dan Miller,
Here.
Kelly Miller,
Here.
Jim Page,
Here.
Dave Repsher,
He's connecting the
he's
audio.
on, he's still connecting, yeah. Brian Rossetti,
Brandon's
or, I'm
here.
sorry, Brandon Rossetti.
Yep, I'm here.
Jeff Sweet, okay, Jeff Sweet,
Here.
Terry Simons,
Here.
Mike Van Beveren, Mark Sikora.
Here.
Roll call complete, you have a quorum.
Sorry, Nikki, it's Brian Gardner. I am here. I was just muted.
Okay, no problem, Brian, I'll go ahead and mark you. Roll call's complete.
Yes.
Excuse me. Announcements, or actually upcoming events. A couple that came across my desk this week. EMS for Children, council meeting is March 21st. If anybody's interested in attending, I've got the Zoom meeting information for the EMSC meeting. That's at March 21st. And also I've received a bunch of correspondence about the EMS Memorial ceremony, which originally was scheduled for May 17th of this year to coincide with EMS week. However, given the work that they're trying to do on expanding the monument, various other projects, they've shifted the date for this year's EMS Memorial to September 20th. So the EMS Memorial will be September 20th this year. The current list of reprimands, it looks like must be during the COVID surge, investigation slowed down, or we've all gotten much better. I only have 3 this time. Dated November 23rd, 2021, as a result of an investigation conducted by the Department of Health, following the individual's New York State certification has been revoked effective 2/3 of 2021. One Ashendorf from Flushing for violations of Part 815A2, 803M, and 803AL. Next is revoked effective 2/3 of 21. John Henderson from Brooklyn for violations of 800.15A2, 800.16A9, and 800.3AM. suspended for 1 year effective 12/17/21. Suspension stayed pending satisfactory completion of probation. And probation is for 3 years effective 12/17/21. Andrew Tiskowitz from Cicero, New York. And also a civil penalty of $2,000. The penalty stayed pending completion of probation. For violations of part 800.3 AM, 800.3 AS, and 815 subsection 2. I apologize, there's a fourth one. Revoked effective February 10th, 2022, and assessed a civil penalty of $5,000 for violations of part 800.16A, 1, 2, and 3. Lisa Stasiak, Syracuse, New York. I will forward those to the REMAC for their attention. Also in correspondence, it's time to send nominations to the SEMSCO again. My term is completed. If anybody has a burning desire to belong to or to participate in SEMSCO, or even if you don't have a burning desire, we have to submit 2 nominations so that they can say that they have 2 to pick from. You up for that task again, Jimmy?
It's talking to you.
No, I was talking to you.
It does not have to be a member of council.
We can just,
I have no problem being the second name.
okay, yep.
As long as it doesn't get picked.
And if they pick you, it's up to you to decide what you want to do. So we will get those out by hopefully March 16th. Along with that, I did receive correspondence that Dr. Wislansky has been reappointed to CMAC. So I'm sure he's looking forward to that. Hopefully, is Dr. Wislansky in attendance tonight?
Don't see his name up there.
Okay. Yes. Hey, Kirk? All right. Another correspondence actually from Dr. Wislansky that I'm gonna shuffle over to Jeff Sweet. Because we've actually gotten 2 of these here in the last few weeks, but on January 1st, 2022, a patient was brought to Arnett Ogden by Matthew Chapman and David Ripley while they were in plain clothing. It should be noted that we're happy they were in clothing. The patient was having an obvious STEMI, suffered cardiac arrest with numerous defibrillations, ultimately survived, and as of January 3rd, is neurologically intact, and treatment plan was extubation. For our EMS providers to respond to such a call while not even on duty goes above and beyond and should be recognized. So we had a brief discussion about coins, and I don't know if that happened, but aside from that, obviously state council award nominations are going to be coming up this late spring. So certainly I want to forward this to Jeff Sweet, and I want to congratulate Chapman and Ripley on a job well done. I'm guessing they came in from off duty, or?
They got called in.
Good, okay. Outstanding. And I also forwarded an email from Fred Grams at Springway Ambulance, which is on the very opposite end of the region, with regard to one of their crews that can possibly quick read that email as well. Do that one right. Didn't come through?
I was just looking. This is one with the BLS
The
crew.
BLS crew, correct.
Just Paraphrase.
Oh, here. Well, I couldn't remember who was involved. Basically, I met Fred under the ambulance canopy at Noise. And we were talking about this call, but, the email I got from Fred was, Donnie, thank you for telling me about, possible crew recognition from the regional council. And what, for Ross calls and what details we can share. Here are the general details about the pre-hospital save that started out as an alpha priority call. So the dispatch was 12 alpha, a seizure call, November 22nd of 21. A14 dispatched to a call in the village. At 21:14, while moving the patient to the ambulance, the patient went into cardiac arrest. CPR was initiated. The crew transported to Noise Hospital BLS with one shock initiated on scene and one shock delivered prior to arrival at the ED. Upon arrival at the ED, the crew had achieved Ross. The AED report is attached to the chart and it appears to show course B fib initially. They carry the HeartStart FRX AEDs. From what I was told by the Noise staff, the patient was found to have a STEMI and was flown to Strong. I've also been told that the patient has since returned home and has also returned to work. Also to note, the assistant or third crew member on this call was an EMT student and has just passed her exam this past Monday. So I forwarded that along to Jeff Sweet as well. It was noted that we only provided coins to crews or to hospitals actually within our region. And of course, Williamsville Noise is just outside of our region and truly is the closest hospital for Springway and Cohocton. So congratulations to them as well. And I've left both of those in Jeff's hands for potentially state award nomination. Okay. Last bit of correspondence I have is actually from Steuben County Sheriff's Office asking for assistance as they were selected for the 2022 Acts and Rise Award. They're one of 30 agencies to be selected across the country. And there is, what they're looking for is support for their nomination. I believe it came, if it hasn't come on, I'll send it out, or ask Nikki to send it out to all you guys for the email link.
It took about 5 seconds and 2 clicks to submit the nomination, so.
Okay.
Which day did you do it? Because you get to vote day after day after day.
Oh, that was not clear.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like the federal elections, I guess.
Vote off.
Out of curiosity, I knew we had talked about it last year, but do they have possibly any data that the Sheriff's Department would like to share about how many calls they've handled, how many times they've ended up crewing an ambulance?
Yes, they
That
do.
was part of their.
I'll get other Sheriff McNellis captures all that. I'll get him to forward that.
Yeah, because I knew we had talked about how much we'd like to see it, to see how well the program's working, and we just haven't seen any of it yet.
They have some really good stuff, and I think that Frank has interfaced with them quite a bit. I'll get John to share that.
Okay. Any forward correspondence or announcements? Okay. Reprimands, violations are done, upcoming events are done. All right, I trust you all received the minutes from the November meeting electronically. Any additions or corrections to those minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, motion by Rick to approve the minutes, seconded by Jeff. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any, any abstentions? Motion carries. As you recall, in November, bylaws amendments were presented regarding some changes we needed to make to line up with Article 30. And as for our bylaws, those amendments or proposed amendments were to be tabled till the next meeting. And that'll be our next order of business. We'll move those back up and ask for any discussion, any further discussion.
Donnie, I just had a question on the membership. I apologize, I didn't get to be on for the November discussion and stuff, but I noticed that we dropped the EMS coordinators off the voting council, and looking at the proposed membership part of that, I'm a little bit concerned that we're limiting our membership or guaranteeing one group a certain amount of membership, and then dividing, I think it was 5 other groups, get the rest of the membership spots. And I just think there's a lot of organizations out there with vested interest in EMS in our 3 regions. And I wonder if that's the way we want to word it, and especially dropping those coordinators off the membership voting council.
That matches Article 30. Its verbiage is what the state has intended. And just for the record, those 3 coordinators are council members. They are not voted off. They are the council members, even if they quit their jobs as the EMS coordinator or fire coordinator or EMO, they still get to keep that spot until they're either resigned or voted off the council. The counties, all the counties have a ex officio member per Article 30. So that's the reason we changed the verbiage, just to match what the state said.
Okay.
Interesting case in point. I didn't really intend to mention it until toward the end of the meeting, but one of our EMO coordinators, one of our EMS coordinators, is actually retiring. And that's a question that we struggled with before when Mark Sikora retired, and then his replacement was retired. Because of the total membership restriction limitation, we're faced with the question whether we then had to remove the retiring EMO director, or where that went. So as Jimmy said, he lined the proposed amendment up with what Article 30 actually stipulates. We had somehow along the way, we had merged the 2 items.
So a little history behind that is the bylaws before the current bylaws were actually in line with Article 30. And then we changed it for our current bylaws to allow the EMS coordinators to be automatically voting members. Then we found out that we were in we were in difference with Article 30, so that we had to change it back so that we're in line with the health law.
You better let that dog out. Yeah.
What's that?
So we need to go with
Said
the
to let the
dog.
dog out. Oh, it's not mine, she's sleeping. Mine's knocked out. Okay, other questions? Discussion? Seeing none and no little microphones turning from red to green, it's gonna need a roll call vote.
Okay, I think I got this down. Can everybody hear me?
Yep,
Okay. Roll call vote. Frank Brzezowski,
Yes.
Brian Chapman,
Yes.
Diana Chapman,
Yes.
Mark Sikora,
Yes.
Jessica Conklin.
Yes.
Is that a yes? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Donnie Duval,
yes.
Brian Gardner,
I'm gonna say no at this point.
Mel Horton,
Yes.
Colleen Holbert,
Yes.
Alan Ingalls,
Yes.
Dr. Kellogg,
Yes.
Bill Kennedy,
Yes.
Rick Kimball,
Yes.
Jim Kintz,
Yes.
Tim Marshall,
Yes.
Dan Miller,
Yes.
Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Jim Page,
Yes.
Dave Repsher, Dave Repsher. He's on, but he's not unmuted. We'll try him again. Jeff Sweet,
Yes.
Terry Simons,
Yes.
Mike Von Beveren. He was on, now he's off. Matt Chapman,
Yes.
Brandon Rossetti,
I'm gonna abstain.
Devin McGinnis. On now.
I'm here. I'm going to abstain as well.
And we'll try Dave Repsher one more time. Okay, roll call's complete. The motion passes.
Can you give the totals for each, please?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I can't hear you.
Can you give the total yeses, nos, and abstentions, please?
That's 20 yeses, 3 abstentions.
No.
Um,
You would have no.
Actually, there was a no vote.
Or I'm sorry, 1 no vote, 20 yeses, 1 no, and 2 abstentions. I apologize.
Okay. Motion carries. Committee reports. Systems.
Systems did not meet, but I do have one thing to bring forward and things to discuss. First thing is we have a notice of intent to provide public access defibrillation from Parish of the Most Holy Name of Jesus. It's 101 Davis Street in Elmira, New York. The Philips Heart Start defibrillator with 20 trained providers and 7 AEDs. I believe this is the school system, the Catholic school system in Elmira.
And churches.
And churches. Dr. Stephen Hennigan out of the Arnett is the emergency healthcare provider. And all the signatures are good, and I will bring this forward to forward on to the Department of Health. We have no statutory responsibility to accept or not to, or to approve or deny, just to accept and then to forward to the Department of Health. And it is complete. So that's that. If anybody wants to review that, I can either send them a copy or they can review the copy here today. The one item for discussion is that it was brought to our attention here in the past few days that our fee schedule for CONs sometimes greatly exceeds the budgets for some agencies that may need a CON. Sometimes it's up to 2 to 3 years worth of their budget, which is $7,500 for a new CON. So some of the smaller agencies and some of the smaller municipalities. So I've currently reached out to the state, haven't heard back yet on whether we could, whether they could bond a CON, which a bond means that essentially they put forth 10% and guarantee the remaining. So I just want, before we change the CON policy, we wanted to make sure that that meets the state, or that the state will accept a 10% bond.
But that would be for everyone, not
That
just
would
small.
be for everyone. Everybody would have the option to do a 10% bond. Or they could give us the $7,500 up front, and then usually the way it works with the CONs is that we've actually been very frugal with our CONs, and we usually return 95% or more of their money. So a 10% bond would more than cover anything that we do. We've been very good at finding venues that will give us space without charging us. And we've been very lucky in the last 2 or 3 CONs that we found hearing officers, and we've gone with attorneys for the last few hearing officers. And they've all done it pro bono. So we've had really the only expense that we've had is putting the public notice in the newspaper. So I don't see any reason that a 10% bond would cause us any hardship. That we probably have to put something in there that they would guarantee the payment before we could do anything. But that's to be worked out after we find out if the state finds that a bonding is acceptable. So
That sounds good. We can't be the only region that has small agencies as strong.
yeah, me either. So I mean, we put $7,500 down because that's really essentially what every other region in the state has done $7,500. And the $7,500 is really so that you could cover any appeals. And
I guess I would question if an agency can't afford 7,500. Last time I bought an ambulance, it was more than 7,500.
yeah,
And buying equipment is a little bit more. So I find it odd.
well, part of the CON process is they have to show that they're financially able to operate.
I get that, but if you can't afford 7,500, how can you afford starting an ambulance service?
Well, I think I can see both sides of this. I really think it's important that an agency have something at stake to embark on a CON action. By the same token, as we start to clean up some of our CON discrepancies, I remind you that Independence Emergency Squad, for the 6 calls a year that they covered in the town of West Union, which is in our region, to get a CON when their annual operating budget is $35,000 for the 100 calls a year that they do. Remember that we need to make sure what our policy is somehow fits every agency in the region, because it has to be consistent policy. And that's what kind of got me thinking, and Rick and I were talking about the issue of, for an agency like that, a bond is an affordable thing. And basically, a bond is a guarantee that if they don't meet their obligations, they forfeit the bond, the money then comes to cover the expenses. So the money's guaranteed.
So then should we be looking at extension versus new CON?
When you say extension versus new CO.
The extension is Skylar's covering Chemung County now. That's an extension of their existing CON versus ABC ambulance that used to run an ice cream store now, or wants to start an ambulance service. That's a brand new one. So extending the area, like they're actually doing our area a favor
Right.
by covering that.
I think we were only able to split, and I could be wrong, I'll do some research on this, but I think we were only able to split it into two categories, and that was traditional CON and municipal CON. We couldn't split the traditional CON down even further for the fee schedule.
According to who?
I think it was the state was who told us that when it was what, 5 years ago that I redid this policy?
It's been quite a while, yeah.
And I believe it was when we were doing that, because we talked about different fee schedules depending on what type of CON that you had, and the state said, no.
Maybe we can ask our state rep, because that, to me, that doesn't make sense. Unless it's in law, why we can't separate.
I don't know if it's in law or not, but I know at the time it was a fight that we weren't willing to.
You didn't ask me, I'm always willing to fight. I'll take either side, it doesn't matter.
Rick, do you have a sense of how many agencies struggle to pay this?
In the past couple of CONs that we've done, the last 3 CONs, nobody struggled to pay it, but they all said that it tied up a significant portion of their operating capital. So it's not that they didn't have the money to do it, it's now that they had $7,500 that for the 90-day or the 120-day CON process, they didn't have access to the $7,500 to use for whatever.
Yeah, I mean, even at the end of the day, independents somehow figured out how to come up with the money.
Right.
But again, I'd say we check with the state and find out if we can divide that out.
I mean, that's a question I can ask when I hear back if we can even buy. I have to. So, I mean,
I think the problem is more so that regardless of whether it's an expansion or a new CLN, you can get a relatively simple uncontested action, or you can get a very contentious action that, and for instance, to go back to independences, remember on our side of the fence, there was no contention. On the Allegheny side,
there was
issues. So,
and both CONs were tied together, so it was so that if one side was going to appeal it, it was going to appeal it for both regions. So we would have been on the hook. We would have been on the hook for part of that appeal.
And who tied it together?
It was the state, because instead of them doing 2 different CON actions, they did one. The state wanted to do one single CON action. So the 2 regions got together and we shared the responsibility.
Well, it seems like that when our answers come from the state, I mean, we can sit and talk all we want, but the answers have to come from them.
right.
I mean, it's not like this is gonna encourage frivolous CONs, right?
No, I don't think there's any frivolous CONs. I mean, the next thing I was going to talk about, just briefly and very much on the periphery, is that we've had some CON inquiries over the last week. So people asking for information about CON. So there may be some CON actions coming up here soon, and that's why this kind of came to light. Is that, do we want to get this policy revised before these CONs come in, or just Or just let the policy ride out how it is?
And the problem is, I think if actions come in before, we can't change the policy
No.
midstream.
Right. No.
We can't change it once an action's on the table.
Right.
And we really shouldn't change it until we find out what the state accepts.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's why I was gonna alter the policy and bring it to the meeting tonight, but I haven't gotten an answer, so I can't, so I didn't revise the policy yet.
Correct.
So that's all the information I have from systems.
Okay. I did see one more piece of correspondence that came this week, and I actually had asked to invite the principals. But apparently there's a change in EMS charts on the backside, which incorporates a change in hospital fax numbers. An email came through Brandon. I know Brandon was on the chain, and two representatives from University of Rochester. I didn't pull a hard copy of the email down, so I'm going to pick on Brandon just a little bit to help me through this.
I don't understand the question.
What's that?
What's the question?
The email that came from University of Rochester's information technology people this week regarding
It was simply, can we pass along, there's a new fax number for EMS charts for three or four of the hospitals in the southern tier that are URMC hospitals, like Noyes, St. James, Wellsville, Jones. That's all I interpreted to be, was there's a new fax number for EMS charts.
So my understanding is that's a common central records repository now, because it's the same fax number for all three hospitals.
Which would make sense if they're using an interconnected medical record system at University of Rochester.
Yep.
They're trying to tie it to Epic.
What's that?
They're trying to tie it to Epic.
Has that gone out? If it's not, Mike, can we, I'll forward that to you if you haven't seen it yet. If we can forward it to the agencies in the region. Probably not just the EMS charts. Well, I guess that was a question I was hoping one of the representatives would have been here for. I know they're working on like a bridge to bring EMS charts data into their information system, but it really didn't say in the email whether they could accept data from other vendors.
The discussion has largely been who wants to pay for that bridge to go into Epic. U of R is Epic, and I think Robert Packard, the Guthrie Group is Epic, and nobody else is Epic. You guys aren't, correct? Yeah.
Well, we want to be.
Yeah. So there's the gap, getting somebody to pay for that bridge.
Right.
And apparently, U of R is going to take on some of that.
Well, I know they specifically mentioned EMS charts, but I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to accept other vendors through that fax number. I guess that's a question maybe we should explore and see. But,
I'll follow up with U of R and with Peter Brody.
okay.
See where that stands.
But for now, agencies in our region that are using EMS charts, there is a new fax number for sending the data.
You sure they mean EMS charts as in the product, or EMS charts as the whole meaning?
No, it was EMS charts.
So,
Yeah. It was specifically EMS charts.
They just needed a number.
because that doesn't make sense that it would just be EMS charts alone.
I think they want our system to change. Just need to update the number so the PCRs can get to them. That's all. That's why I understood it.
Yeah, I would think, it's, there may be a mistake there or a misunderstanding there. I would think that it would be all PCRs, not just EMS charts.
Well, I would have thought that except for the idea that they're submitting like directly into the Epic system somehow. There's not a paper thing that comes to that fax number at all. Strictly the data.
So do they have
But-
two
but-
fax numbers then?
Yeah, but the data wouldn't come across as fax. I mean, the data would have to come by a LAN link, some kind of internet link, because just data by fax would just be unrecognizable characters.
Right.
And so usually when you send something from a fax, it's faxed as a PDF, and then that's a PDF is attached to the medical record. Where like when you do a data dump for like the state bridge or something like that, it's all an ASCII2 format, or it's a Boolean format that actually one computer sends it and then the next computer receives it and then translates it into whatever format it is. So, and that's not something that can happen over a fax.
So currently we still get a fax and there is some talking mechanism via internet from the AMR charts into our Corning Hospital Epic. It feeds our pre-hospital information.
Okay. So have you guys, with Epic, have you guys updated your fax numbers yet? Oh, well, no, I guess if Rochester's was going to the central repository. More to come, but we'll forward out the new fax numbers for the new fax number for all of the U of R facilities, so that you can update your software systems. Because I haven't been able to refine the email yet. Any questions for systems? CMAC and SEMSCO. From the SEMSCO side, it was a very abbreviated January meeting. We were a go for a hybrid meeting. And then because of the Omicron surge, meetings were scaled back. Most of the committee meetings were scuttled, and only a few very specific pieces of business were discussed at the January council meeting. A couple of protocol approvals that Dr. Wislenski was involved with. But other than that, hopefully, originally I saw April meeting dates and then I saw May meeting dates. So state council is hoping to get back on track with full committee meetings. A couple of things that came up briefly. I'm sure you're all aware the CME recertification portal is up and running for agencies that have done the training. I've used the CME recertification portal. Seems pretty easy, actually. It's kind of nice. Changes in the state offices. Obviously, Gene Taylor retired the first of the year. I've not heard here. What's that?
Still here.
Still here as a consultant?
Still here.
What's the plan, Brian? Anything?
Gene is still with us.
Okay. You guys ever handcuffed to the desk or what?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that?
You said you guys ever handcuffed to her desk or what?
Pretty much. Yeah. Dana Jonas has retired. Who does the CON stuff? So
That's why I didn't hear back.
I had not an email about that.
exactly.
Last week.
Okay. Is there anything else we should know about, Ryan?
Would you like me to give a report? I have stuff. If you'd like me to give, I can give it now. Just a reminder that the next CMEC and SEMSCO meeting is April 12th and 13th. Also, at the end of last month, we sent out 2205, which gave another year extension on EMT certifications. This did not include CIC and CLI certifications. We're still operating 9 state mobilization plan ambulances out of the Syracuse and Batavia areas, mostly doing transfers, interfacility transfers. And out of the Western region, the Associate Medical Director, Dr. Young, he's retired also. So that's about all I have.
That's interesting. His Facebook posts have been pretty cryptic, other than to say that he had no assignments now that the pandemic was almost over.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure, like, it's one of those things where he says he's retired, but he's got, like, 24 weeks of vacation that he needs to use. So I don't know when his official retire date actually is, but I pretty much, he's pretty much done from what I understand.
Well, our congratulations to Dr. Young. He's been a good friend to EMS.
Oh, absolutely. And from what I understand, he's planning on being at the April CMAC and SEMSCO meetings.
Oh, good. People at this table will recall that it was Dr. Young who helped us solve the hospital diversion problem here in the Southern Tier a few years ago.
Dr. Young has been a huge friend to this region, a huge friend to this region.
He's a huge friend to EMS just in general, whether it's the Buffalo, Erie County region, or just throughout the entire Western region. He's done an amazing job.
Great. Another question about CME recertification extensions, Brian.
Sure.
I haven't seen a clear answer anywhere yet, but as far as research go, the state has never wanted them sent in more than 9 months prior to their expiration date. I have 3 or 4 of them that were ready to go here in the next month. But they now will have 14 or 15 or 16 months until their extended expiration date. Should I hold on to those, or can we go ahead and keep sending them in that we have done? This year's gap is kind of screwing up that group of people that are at or near that 9-month window.
So I would say that if you have not filed them and they're now greater than that 9-month time period, I would hold them until that time to send them in. I fell into that same thing during the last extension, so I just held on to mine and then filed it when it was within that 9 months.
It's kind of unfortunate because I have a lot of people that do their training a little bit once.
I hear you. I fell into that same window the last time, and I agree. But yeah, I would hold on to it, and unfortunately, it's they get an extra year, but it does kind of create a void where they can't do any CMEs that actually count towards anything.
It's almost like a punishment, sort of. But I guess it is what it is.
So it's been extended twice.
Yeah.
So does that mean the education you get within that 5-year period?
Actually, it's 48 months. They will look back for 48 months during that time period.
Okay, so anybody that did their training on time, that just disappears because of the extension for the first year.
So if you actually fell into a scenario where you actually got 5 years out of your card, anything that you did during that first year wouldn't count. It would only be the next 4 years that would count.
So the couple that I've got that are done, I'm gonna have to go back and refigure, and I've got to look them in the eye and tell them that they've got to do more training.
No, you have to look, figure out, and call the state.
I would definitely give Gene Myers a call and, confirm with him. But I had a conversation with him 2 or 3 days ago, and he said that they were going back for 48 months. So
I would hope that they would make that clear to everybody, because I've not seen that in any correspondence.
you are correct. And that is exactly why I asked the question, because I had several other people asking the question, and that was the answer that I got.
Okay. Anything else? Maybe more positive?
We gave you an extra year. No, that's end of my report.
It does sound like we're complaining about that.
Okay. Any other?
9 months early.
Yes.
And if anyone else has any other questions.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay. STREMS.
I could not make it to the most recent meeting. I was stuck in the hospital. From what Rob told me, conversations continue about RSI in this region. Those of you that were there, anything to add?
They had a presentation from it was either NASA or Suffolk, did a study.
On our side, yeah.
Yeah. That doctor did a presentation on that, Jason. Can't think of his name, but I think that turned on some light bulbs from people to reconsider it.
The only other thing that I had on the radar from Dr. Wislensky was he has obtained a board certification in addiction medicine. We discussed in December, and Doc has really wanted to engage in a project to extend treatment for people who've overdosed, and then we end up returning to those same people. It's a combination of Suboxone, buprenorphine. Interestingly, at State Council at the CMAC meeting, there was considerable discussion about that because another region, I believe the Erie County region, is looking at doing the same thing. And Dr. Wislensky was able to network with that physician. And I think his hope was that we were going to be able to go on board as a region with that region in the demonstration project or pilot project. But more to come on that. I know Doc was pretty excited about.
I know there were questions about it being tied to community paramedicine because of reimbursement.
Right. Yep.
Dr. Callahan from this region also was going to get with Rob, and she was very interested in that.
But that was the idea of networking with another region on a demonstration project was something new since the December REMAC meeting. So like I said, it just kind of popped up by surprise in January at Semsco or CMAC. Okay. Training and education.
Training and education did not meet this time. We're that now that the conversations have been around between the last QAQI meeting that we had down here. We had some good feedback from some of the area cores and stuff, and to see moving forward. Of course, we've been waiting to get through this pandemic and where everything's back to a little bit of normality. So now that we're hoping that maybe some of the mandates are being released here, that we can start looking at getting back in to some of the things we've done in the past and some of the cores have brought out some good ideas. So moving forward with that. Didn't get too much feedback about, you answered a lot of the questions already that they were asking. A lot certification stuff and what are we going to do for our certs if we can't get the CMEs and we can't get education points. And in answer to the problem about now my date's going to expire, by pushing that back, that helped a lot of people. But okay, now how do we get the classes? How do we get the stuff on board? So kind of a twofold problem, but hopefully we can get some of that fixed for them. But that was about it before training, unless anybody's got any questions.
Course sponsor renewal applications. I know I'd seen emails on 2 or 3 of those. Those are always due by June 1st. Actually, I've got one in front of me here. I believe it's a specialty course sponsorship application from OnStar. And I think I saw an email on Schuyler counties as well.
We did not get a copy of theirs. They may have forwarded it directly to the state. Gene kept extending that date, so I'm not sure where those things are like.
Gotcha. Hey, Bill Kennedy.
Yes,
Did your application or your renewal go directly to the state?
we sent one to them because and then we also, I thought we sent a copy to Nikki down there for the council.
Okay. All right.
This is Nikki. I'm on. I didn't receive anything from Schuyler County.
I will double check. I thought we did. We are dealing with them because we were late getting the application in, and they told us to send them up to them at the state level.
Okay. Did they go through your application, Bill? Were they happy with it?
Yeah, they said fine, and I have to look what we got back from them, but we did receive something back.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say if you've got something back, we can call it good. And being a specialty course sponsor, I think OnStar is a very short application. Actually, I've got just one page here.
The special course sponsorship is diluted and potentially going away, because there is no more CIC.
Right.
They're directing you right off to NEPC. And so the only thing they're offering is some sort of CLI, but you can also get CLI through NEPC now.
Yeah.
So that sponsor may go away. I think a lot of people fall by the wayside because there just is nothing left to it.
That's interesting because there were a couple of rollouts of specialty classes last year. And I would have guessed that those would have been coming through the specialty course sponsors when they were ready to roll out.
I think they're looking to them now to do CIUs, but they're also talking about doing online CIUs. So we've not heard much direction on that. We threw up a CLI class back in probably October, and we pulled probably 4 or 5 more CLIs out of that. And if the state is amenable, we would probably do another one coming up before summer. It's it's 16 hours. It's a pretty easy lift.
Brian, what are your thoughts on that? I know I've attended a couple of CIUs. I attended the mill runs one in person. Are they not going to be handled by specialty course sponsors now? Or what's going on with that?
I don't believe that there is any change currently slated. So as far as my understanding is that they're going to be handled by them.
Okay. So far, no change, so, so I think, with this special course sponsor short form and role, I'd be inclined to entertain a motion to approve it pending, pending training and ed's review and go ahead and get it sent on to the state.
Make the motion.
Anybody care to second that motion?
I'll second.
I'll
Go ahead. Oh,
I'll second it.
okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So we'll refer that to Frank. Like I said, the motion will read approved, just pending a quick review to make sure all the pieces are there. And if Skylar's is already into the state, and they've got an approval back from the state, I'd say no action needed. Anything else for training and education?
Danny, along those lines, the state did give 2 provisional appointments this region for regional faculty.
Okay,
They appointed Brandon Rossetti and Bruce Irwin as regional faculty. It's provisional. There's an education component that's in development, and their duties are yet to be defined.
all right.
But they did a statewide, they reassessed the whole regional faculty across the state,
Right.
and made all new appointments, dropped some people, added some people, did whatever they do.
Interesting.
I think that was Liz's last.
Right.
So Liz is definitely gone.
She is gone. She's in Delaware.
All right, anything else for training and education? Public information.
We did not meet. We did pass on the information to the executive committee on the advertising. Last I had heard from that, we're holding off due to funds from the state.
Yeah, more on that at finance committee.
Other than that, that's it. Haven't heard anything, bunch or anything about the website. There's more information put out there about classes coming out or anything like that, if them forward it to me. You know, front page.
So back to the other issue, anybody that has nominations for state council awards, let's make sure that we keep those coming in. It would be nice to make the nominations for state council awards this year. You know, historically, we've been very poor at it for the last couple of months. You know, like I said, we're starting to see some things come in. Any other information come in from coins or any of that, Jeff?
There was just Dr. Walensky's one and the one that you just gave me, that's it. As far as the coins being given out by the doctors at different places or wherever, I'm not getting any kickback information to me. It's coming to a third party.
Okay.
So the cards or whatever, I know that the Arnet, when they did their revamp or their ER, nobody knows where those coins went to. So I might need to revisit making sure that the doctors over there have what they need to be able to do that end. But I haven't heard anything back from Skylar or Corning or anything like that about any of their coins that are getting handed out or anything.
That was always gonna be a problem though, is where do they keep them?
Yep. Who's responsible? for that?
Yeah, so that, I'm sure that's system wide, no one will be able to put their fingers right on them.
So, sure.
We had a question a while back. There was a save, there was an Elmira Fire Department Deputy Chief in a watering hole, and he initiated CPR. Engine 3 come over, continued, and then Airways come over, and they got the guy back, and it was a good save. And so how do you go about recognizing the whole chain of survival there?
That chain did get, the whole chain got recognized for that.
Yeah, but is there a process going forward? Because a couple people have asked about that, because I think, you know, the recognition, rightly so, goes to who walks through the door with them. But oftentimes there's people down the line. You know, EFD had 2 really good ones, but that one was.
Right, so that goes back to whoever was recognizing it in the first place, making sure that all the information is obtained, that who was involved with it.
Well, we plucked that off PCR review.
Right.
We did their AED download, and we kind of shoved it over to you and to
Yep.
Mickey. But I'm afraid that, you know, we don't review every PCR, or like we haven't, you know, Springways, we haven't gotten that AED yet to read. So if we don't get our hands on the thing, we may miss it, and they may miss, you know, recognition.
That's an inherent problem with any way that you do this, is that unless someone speaks up, I mean, you're not gonna get recognized, because the people that actually do it aren't going to ask for recognition themselves. So there has to be I don't want to call it disinterested third party, but there has to be a third party that brings forth the recommendation. I mean, that's the problem with anything. So, or any award that's given is that someone has to make the effort to recognize the people. I mean, what award do you proactively go out and look for people to give the award to? I mean, it's not, you know, especially these types of awards are usually awarded by someone who sees an act that merits the award and then presents them for it. So if you don't have the people willing to speak up, then
Best thing I can say is if anybody has anything, just email it to the council. And just put it out there, any third party that wants to recognize anything, we'll search through it and go through everything and research it all.
We gave coins out to the fire department in that case, didn't we?
We did.
Fire
Yeah,
department,
it went all the way down. the
fire
line.
department, off-duty captain, just a bystander. It was a volunteer fireman, and then the 3 guys on engine 3 and the 2 from us.
Correct. It went all the way down the line. So for anybody in any region, Ben, Skyler, you know, whoever the third party is, just tell them to get in contact with us.
it doesn't have to be the doctor. I mean,
Right.
you know, I mean, it could be your agency chief says, hey, these guys did a great job. Let me send an email off to the council, and then the council will, I mean, the STREMS can award it. So
is it worthwhile for the council
Now,
to put
Stream
together?
cannot award it. The council has to. This is a council project.
yeah, but it was,
You know,
but
sorry.
yeah, but it was a position award is what it was originally designed, to be, right?
But from the council.
Right, it's from the council, but it would be the position.
But we could do it on behalf of the council.
How don't you guys chip in?
Well, like, with some of that, that's the problem there. If you fly somebody from Northern Smith County or Schuyler County, and they go to Rochester, the doctor's not gonna know enough to make one of the cards out. You know, we're gonna have to go by either someone from the crew or from the service, as into, then we do the legwork to see if they actually did do an excellent job.
So maybe we need to promote this award a little bit, or this something with the agencies.
Yeah, if you put something together, we can get it out to all the agencies.
And to be fair, the STREMS does represent all the medical directors of the hospitals, so. But I'm not gonna give a chance to pick on something.
Oh, yeah, flip flopping on the issue now?
No, I just.
No, he's
wanted-
arguing. Is that
Well,
size?
You know, as we noted, Cohocton, Whalen, their destination is most often a hospital that's outside the region. Probably the same thing if you get patients that wind up going directly to sick. it's a destination outside of the region.
I think the simple answer to this is just come up with some simple one-page promotion of this and send it out to all the agencies. So that they understand the process.
Okay, other than that, that's all I have. Unless there's any questions.
So opening it up, so other than doctors can initiate the process.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And Jimmy will personally distribute the awards to people.
Absolutely, just wait for it. That's what I said.
Second half.
Motion's been made. Other questions for public information? This actually falls a little bit into both. But at the December meeting, we discussed opening up the new ad campaign with the television commercials and the television spots. We were going to do that by executive committee. However, we've hit a little bit of a financial snafu. So that's why Jeff doesn't have a report on that as yet. As I said, more to come in finance committee. Any other questions for public information? Hey. If there are none, QA committee?
QI committee did not meet. However, I believe we have everybody on board for EPCRs, which is a huge accomplishment in this area. So I think that Jasper is the only one lacking to get on board with that.
Okay.
We're actually missing two, and we just got notified by the state that we need to crack a little whip on those two and advise the state weekly their status for compliance.
Is Terry, do you know, is there anything Jasper needs to help them? Yet?
I don't believe they need anything other than time.
Okay. Time with setup help or?
Just time to get it started, from what I understand.
Okay. Who's in charge there now?
Barb Hyman is working on it.
Okay. All right. I'm available if they need a hand with, getting the software set up and working, or with picking a software that fits them. Just let her know I'm close by.
Okay, I'll give her that information. Thanks.
Mike, who's the other?
Horseshoe Gang Mills. They're resistant, not.
Do they respond to EMS? I thought.
Yes, but they want to get out of it.
Okay.
Fair enough.
They've not opted out. They're still an agency code, still doing some response. But I think there's not much appetite to continue that.
Well, so, and maybe Brian Weidman can answer this question. If they choose not to comply with the electronic PCR standards and they choose not to go, their funding goes away, correct?
Their agency number goes away.
Yes. And with that goes their ability to do CME recertification, their ability to get their ability to get funding for EMS courses.
So as a BLSFR, if they choose not to do the EPCR, they are just not eligible for CME recertification.
Okay.
So they should still be able to be a BLSFR agency. They would still have a number. They would still be eligible for funding. It's just the CME part goes away.
So what happens when it's time to renew their, or update their CFR agency code?
I'm sorry, I missed, what was the question?
So what happens when it comes time for them to do their required agency update?
They would just continue on as they have in the past. They just would not be eligible to do CME. Their members would not be eligible to do CME recertification.
Okay. So we should probably reach out and make sure they understand.
Hey. I just don't know why, I get the state puts it on the program agency. You've notified them, correct? I would say then you should send it back to the state, we've notified them, there's nothing else we can do. We have no authority to do anything, so it's now in your lap. Take it off your desk.
We have,
Okay.
and there was a long gap of time, and this, like I said, this email just came today from Peter. Notice us, by the end of the close, who's not compliant, and need to re-notice us every Monday, their status.
Okay.
We contact them, we've had conversations with them, we've given them the pros and cons. We're still trying to convince them that they need to stay in the response business and not just go all fire. They're just waffling as to where they want to be in this world.
Okay. Anything else for QA? Finance committee.
Finance committee did not meet, however, it's actually quite an easy job now because the state's not paying any money out. We haven't received it in, I believe, 3 or 4 months, which Mike's gonna laugh at, because you guys are what, 9 months?
Not much, we'll be a year and a month.
So right now, we owe M-Star roughly, counting this meeting, about $600. We owe Dr. Kellogg, as our regional medical director, his quarterly payment. We're still paying for the small items, the post office box, things like that. But we can't really ask M-Star to put more money out for the advertising when the state's not spending or paying their money. I'm a little confused because it's not like they're coming up with the money that was already budgeted last year. Now, obviously they've moved money around because of everything else that's going on. It's a little thing with the pandemic, I guess. But so finance wise, I would say we just got to freeze everything we can't spend money on because we're just not getting reimbursed. That's what I said.
So there's another plan, Lynn left.
Yeah, Lynn Frugio, who was actually extremely helpful for us, has left. Nikki contacted her replacement and she said, "Oh, you're not getting paid? I guess I'll look into that." And that's about it. So, and to be fair, we're not the only one. So she's probably stepping and fetching, trying to get up to speed with everybody else. So that's all I have for finance.
They claim they're gonna process everything prior to the end of March, because that's the state's fiscal year, and they have to get it out the door in order to raise their cash ceiling. So, for what that's worth, 2 weeks.
This year or next year?
Which March?
Craziness. Of course, years past, I was out over 2 years for state council reimbursements. Oh, yeah. Jimmy, I'll tell you, he remembers those days.
They have the money.
Anything else for finance? All right, moving on to executive committee. We have a few items of business here. One was an item of business that really didn't need any action, but Bath VA Medical Centers and or going with EMS charts. But as noted a bunch of times before, being a federal installation, they're not required to get seat council approval. But they choose to be a part of the system, so they're moving to Zoll EMS charts.
They're also fully compliant with everything.
Yes,
So
they,
look at the back.
yep, they're involved with protocols, even though they don't have to. They choose to, so that's better. I mentioned earlier, and it bears mentioning again. Bill Kennedy, shared with me a couple weeks ago that he is in fact retiring from Schuyler County.
The guy leading the meeting.
First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate Bill on his upcoming retirement. It's great news. Along with that, Bill shared with me that Kirk Smith is his replacement. And I saw Kirk up on the board earlier. You want to say hello, Kirk?
Hi, Donnie. Pleasure to meet with you all this evening.
Hey, thanks. Bill, I'm guessing, I'm hoping, plans to remain on the Regional EMS Council as a member of Schuyler, as a member of the contingent of Schuyler County. And as I noted when we talked about bylaws revisions to line up with Article 30, this was one of the places where we realized after the fact, obviously when the proposed amendments came up, we didn't know what was in the future. But without the change in bylaws, we would have to figure out what to do with Bill, given there are no open Schuyler County seats on his retirement, because statutorily the EMS coordinators from the counties are members. But now with the bylaws changes, we can accommodate that. Bill's welcome to stay as he chooses. And Kirk will become a member as well as Schuyler County's EMS coordinator. So that's a little bit of the backstory on what the importance of the way Article 30 was meant to be is. So with that, congratulations on your retirement, Bill. And Bill has also asked that we remove his two current alternates, Chip Wood and Brian Gardner. Chip moved out of the area, and obviously, of course, Brian Gardner is a seated council member for Schuyler County, so he really can't be Bill's alternate. And along with removing those two, Bill is asked to name Ryan Bailey as his alternate. And I have the application here, was received on April 27th, 2021. I just picked this up today, but Ryan, I believe, is a former Irway or AMR employee. Okay. And
Donnie, this is Bill.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm probably going to change him. Ryan had taken a position with us as one of my part-time people, has since left and now full-time in Yates County. So we'll probably change that.
Okay.
So I'd like to pull that back.
All right, we will pull that back. Okay. So with Kirk's seat being statutory, no vote would be required for that. Correct? You're looking at me.
He's ex officio, so he's not a voting member, but he's automatically a member.
Correct. Yes. So no votes required. Welcome aboard, Kirk. And I'd like to welcome Bill as a civilian member shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other one that I have also becomes important in the context of bylaws revisions, because I've got correspondence from the Steuben County Legislature, who graciously chose to appoint Tim Marshall for a 2-year term to the Regional EMS Council. By Article 30, our terms are 4 years. Hence, it's not really the county legislature's choice. And fortunately, with Tim being the EMS coordinator, it kind of saves a little bit of that ugly discussion. But also for Tim, whether Tim chooses to retire or not, Tim's seat on the council is his until he chooses not to serve. So, but he also holds that EMS coordinator position as well. I know that over the last couple of years, we've gone through 2 or 3 EMS coordinators in Chemung County. Oh, that's right.
15 years. 0 budget.
Sorry. Oh, well, we'll see. If we
Cost
get
of
that
living.
doubled
You get cost of living every
in
year.
the new budget. The point is, we have good and we have dedicated people, and we've seen that government can be fickle, and we've seen that some people take a well-deserved retirement. So that's kind of where we're at there. I guess we would thank the county legislature for their endorsement of our member, but Tim is a member until he chooses otherwise, and the new EMS coordinator down the road, when Tim chooses to do otherwise, will be able to be endorsed by the legislature. Also, I see they actually appointed Tina Goodwin to be a representative as well. However, that's not a statutory seat. I don't remember if we have an empty seat in Steuben County right now, but if we do, I would certainly encourage Tina to apply.
Tina's my alternate, Don.
Oh, okay, all right. Perfect. And if she would like to apply, Tim, obviously, like I said, we certainly welcome that. Lots of experience there as well. Anything further for executive committee? Okay. On to new business. I'm sorry, old business, we covered the advertising already, the commercial spots. New business, I had gotten an email from Brandon Rossetti a few days ago with EMS class updates from the ARNet. They're moving toward a tuition upfront model in the fall of 2022. All students are fully vaccinated in all EMS classes. And updates in class in general. Oh, there's Brian. Do you want to expand on that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just in a nutshell, any class that the ARNet is sponsoring in the fall, full tuition will be required up front, whether that's, the student coming with a check night 1 or they're invoiced before night 1. We're going to move away from the historical reimbursement model and just go with getting our reimbursement on the front end, and that way we don't have to try to recoup any reimbursement on the back end. Bill Kennedy and I had talked about this before, and I think I know that he's most likely headed that way too. I'm not sure that this will fall into Kirk's lap as well, but many other core sponsors are going this way. So just if people reach out to people here and say, is this new? Is this something? It's not entirely new. Actually, we're one of the very few regions statewide that hasn't done this already. This is kind of standard in many regions throughout the state. So we'll be asking for either an invoice or payment up front at the beginning of classes. Also full vaccination of any student coming into any level of our classes. We're planning a full paramedic original starting August 17th on Wednesdays. That's pending state approval. And we're also planning an EMT original and refresher in the Elmira area at MSTAR, and kind of looking at Steuben County, most likely at Corning City Fire. Those will be our locations for our EMT original and refreshers this fall. So that's what's going on education-wise from us.
This is Bill. We actually started that process of getting the tuition up front at the first year when we started the EMT class. It went well with that one. Our ongoing EMT refresher started last year, is on the other cycle, but this new EMT class, we collected the tuition up front.
Yeah, and I've done this a little bit. I've sprinkled it out. I did an AEMT in Schuyler County last year at this time, full tuition up front, and it wasn't an issue. We get questions, and there might be a little bit of apprehension from the agencies, which I totally understand. No one's made of money, but so far it hasn't been an issue at all. And when you speak to the chiefs about why we do it, 99% of the time they totally get it. They understand that the attrition rate is high and the reimbursement model is quite low, so we need to do that in the front end.
It's been a long time coming. I remember.
It has. Yep. It has.
Okay. So you touched on paramedic class upcoming as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. So again, I'm going to keep the double session thing. That seems to work well. A lot of people actually like that, and a lot of agencies actually, tell me they like it too, because they don't have to schedule around 2 evenings a night or a difference in schedules. It's much easier for many agencies and students alike to just take 1 day out of the week for class. So I'll be sticking with that double session model, and we'll be meeting on Wednesdays starting in mid-August.
Do you want to speak about the fall conference?
I'm sorry, Don.
Speak about the fall conference as well.
Yeah, I'd like to ask, is there interest by the council to kind of work collaboratively with the council and ARNIT and other agencies to have more of a council based conference this year, and to that end, putting together a committee of people to kind of help get this conference off the ground, from site location, catering, getting speakers, and everything that's associated with a conference, vendors, and so on. Is there a willingness by this committee or by this council to put up a committee so that we have half a dozen or 8 people that plan this conference?
I know it's a lot of work for 1 or 2 guys.
Donnie, this is Mike Von Beveren. I'd be willing to help Brandon on that.
Okay, great. And I was going to actually certainly encourage Public Information Committee to lend help wherever they can as well. I have a couple topics in mind.
Yeah, you really need a good 6 to 8 people to make this work.
Okay.
I would think between your public education and your or your PIO and your education committee, they should probably be able to handle it, shouldn't they?
What do you think, Frank? You up for
What's that?
it? I said, are you up for it?
I'll definitely help out.
All right. So yeah, Brandon, you've been through this a couple of times. I'd be happy if you take the lead on it and, delegate what you need to out to the committees, education, training, and information. If there's anything specific you need, let me know.
So I'm sorry, who's taking the lead?
You,
I'm sorry. I'm not taking the lead on a conference. I'm sorry.
you gotta delegate to everybody.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not the lead.
Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna put that right out there tonight. I'm not taking the lead on this.
I think it should be the training and education committee if the council's gonna put on a conference.
well,
But if the council, we could actually ask our program agency to take the lead. Program agency's responsibility is to assist the council.
Step back.
And the chairman of MSTAR already volunteered it.
we will certainly,
Payback from last time.
we will certainly make that happen.
I move we adjourn this meeting right now, guys.
We'll certainly make that happen. But at least having your help and advice, Brandon, would be good.
Brandon, would you be willing to sit on the committee rather than take the lead?
Of course, yeah, I'm very willing to be a part of it. I don't mind being a member. I organized plenty of conferences pretty much by myself, so I do understand it, but I'm simply don't want to take the lead on this one.
Well, maybe
I'll be more than happy to help. More than happy to help.
we can get 6 people that are interested to sit down and actually determine.
Correct. In many regions, there's 8 to 10 people that plan a committee or a conference, so be more than willing to help.
So
Donnie,
I'll interject.
it's Mike.
Brandon, that in the fall semester, just so everybody knows, he runs 2 paramedic classes, an EMT class. Most likely he'll run the second EMT class. So fall semester for him is like up against the wall.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So what's he do the other 6 days of the week?
We will,
I'll chime in on that, and that's the problem. There's a limited amount of CIC area. And again, we want to proceed with training and we want to get as much out there, but I feel Brandon's pain because it's the same people that step up to the plate all the time. Right now, there's 23 people on this conference, but I bet you if you ask for input, you'll get 4. And it takes a lot to make those phone calls, make this put together, make the contacts, get people to donate their time. And most of us are already, just like Brandon, 2 or 3 courses, teaching at schools, running our regular daytime job as well. It's typical EMS burnout. So I think that's a great idea for council to take the lead. And it's a tri-county area. Council take the lead, all 3 counties. We're going to have a teaching day, which is open for all 3 counties.
okay. So Nikki's, if you couldn't see Nikki's message at the bottom of the screen, she's gonna put an email out asking, it's not there anymore, Lloyd, it's gone. She's gonna put an email out, we'll solicit some people, but I think the main thrust should come from training and ed and public information. And then we'll see what things we can put out to other committees as well. And maybe clear through the program agency. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I can send out an email tomorrow, and Jimmy, no, I'm not going to be the head of anything. So, yeah.
Donnie, it's Mike Von Beveren again. I'm willing to, I don't think I can pull this off completely by myself, but I'm willing to put myself out there and be the point person of this ad hoc subcommittee.
Okay.
Unless there's someone else that wants to, but it doesn't sound like there is.
Okay. Information will be forthcoming for it. And you had one more item, Brandon, that you had included in your email. Do you want to mention that?
Yeah, I just, in talking with, other regions and other program agencies, I was just thinking some of the money that we might have, although I hear we might not have as much, but is there any utility to retaining a grant writer? A good grant writer, obviously you spend a little bit on the front end, but you have to spend money to make money. And and correct me if I'm wrong, have we retained a grant writer in the past, and have we had success with a grant writer?
Years ago, we had a grant writer. I mean, 10 plus years ago.
Right. So, yeah. So is it time to revisit?
I don't think we got any grants out of it.
Could we potentially look at some grants for a conference, or for, whatever we deem is needed in the regions? Are there grant monies out there? I think we're kind of remiss if we don't even go for any of these grants.
So oddly, this is something that we had talked about 2 or 3 years ago as we moved toward incorporating the Regional EMS Council. With the restrictions that the state places on the council with regard to what we can spend money on, what we can't spend money on, whether they're going to pay us or not. There are a lot of issues that arise from the fact that to this point, the council really has no money. Even to and we had addressed that issue a little bit with regard to refreshments early on. When we found collect mileage reimbursement, then we just all donated our mileage reimbursement. But then COVID hit and nobody was coming to council meetings. So there was no source of, for lack of a better word, slush revenue to be able to cover even flowers for somebody at a funeral, or a plaque for someone who retired. So, and we had talked about at the time either looking into grant opportunities, or looking into a fundraiser opportunity of another as another alternative. And I believe Brandon's right. Maybe this is something we need to look at. Obviously, we don't need 6-digit bank accounts. We don't need a lot of money, but we do need some sort of funding available if a project comes up where we need to front some money out. And this conference is probably a good example. While we can get reimbursement for a lot of the conference expenses, somebody's got to lay the cash out first. And up to this point, we've kind of been using the program agency as our bankroll. And maybe we really do need to look at either finding some alternative revenue streams, not to the scale that we're running a full-fledged business, but that we've got a few $1,000s available to take on a project like a conference and be able to not ask somebody to spend the money until we get reimbursed by the state. Whether that takes the form of grant writers or takes the form of a fundraising activity, I don't have a preference either way.
I'm not selling candy or cookies.
Well, actually, the idea that floated originally was a golf tournament, but the idea that floated originally was a golf tournament, but that again was strictly an idea.
Jimmy'd like to head up that golf committee. Second.
Absolutely, it's gonna be held in Hawaii. The council will have to see if the state will allow me to travel there to pick the right golf course.
That's maybe their current place.
in all seriousness, I think Brendan's on to something. It's something that's not the first time we've discussed it. So maybe we can get a sense, before the next meeting of what, council members' thoughts are, and what kind of opportunities you think we should pursue. Questions? Any other new business?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Fair enough. Meeting is adjourned.